Okay, thanks again for being here. Members of the public who wish to address the commission on an agenda item, please fill out a comment form located in the registration table at the back and hand it to one of the department staff who will forward it up to us. Hannah Smith, the Laramie Region INE, and Stephanie Estelle, a statewide information specialist, are helping register and take care of that desk out there. If you're participating through Zoom, you should have submitted an advance comment form prior to the starting of the meeting. If you would like to comment on an agenda item, please contact the host of the meeting. As we work through this agenda, the public will have the opportunity to address the commission. To ensure everyone has an opportunity to speak and as a courtesy to others, please limit your time. Commissioners, make sure your mic is on when you talk. The red is lit and everybody can hear you then. So would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is to approve the commission meetings from the November commission meeting. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, I would second to Ken's motion.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Masterson, seconded by Commissioner Brokaw to approve. Are there any further discussion?
There is, I have an amendment to bring to the minutes,
Okay,
and it's on page 12. It was during the discussion of landowner licenses. And we had talked about in that discussion, we'd talked about obtaining an attorney general's opinion. And I would ask like to include in the minutes that discussion took place. And I'll read the two sentences I drafted up for the commission's consideration. And I propose to insert it underneath cap, set at 40% on page 12. And it would read, the commission discussed obtaining an attorney general's opinion regarding whether setting a cap on landowners' licenses is permissible under Wyoming statute. Director Bruce indicated she would pursue that opinion. And I have it written down and I can send it to our scribe for inclusion if the body permits it.
okay. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Commissioner Bell?
Mr. President, I would second that amendment, that motion for that amendment.
Okay, there's been a motion made and a second to amend the minutes from the November meeting as presented by the lawyer on board, Commissioner. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. And we have to do another. Is there a motion to approve the minutes at this time?
So,
Oh, it's already been made
as amended.
as
Correct.
amended. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. Director Bruce?
Good afternoon, commissioners. First, before I jump in, I would like to say thank you for your flexibility as we altered the schedule for this commission meeting numerous times. So thank you to presenters and the public for bearing with us. A lot going on in Cheyenne these days. I think this is the third day of the legislative session. So thanks for accommodating our schedule. First of all, I'd like to acknowledge a new person on our leadership team, our Wildlife Division Chief and our new State Game Warden, Dan Smith. Dan Smith comes to us from the Cody region as wildlife supervisor, where he has been working there for the last 7 years. Prior to that, he was a regional access coordinator. He attended college in Arizona and worked for a while there before he made his way back here. This was a hard decision. We had numerous internal candidates, a large pool of candidates with just an incredible amount of experience. So really good to see people stepping up into the leadership. Next, I'd like to give you an update on the Du Bois Highway 26 Wildlife Crossing project. This is the project that the commission contributed $500,000 to it. And unfortunately, we just recently learned from the Federal Highway Administration that we did not receive the federal grant this round. If you recall, for the Kemmerer project in the first round of this bill funding, we received the largest funding in the nation. This was our second try, and we were not successful. However, I have regrouped with our sister agency, WYDOT, to talk about next steps. And we hopefully will have a third opportunity for the same funding source at the federal level. That application is due in May, so we will regroup and resubmit that. We are also looking at other opportunities. They will apply for what they call a RISE grant. And this will be mostly for the planning and engineering of it. It's due at the end of the month, so a real quick turnaround, but really looking at all options to be able to move forward and fund that project. So stay tuned as we develop and move through that. As I recently spoke, the legislative session is underway. Things tend to be moving quite quickly this year. I think this is the first year since I've been here that we have testified on the first Thursday. But, you know, we testified in front of both the Senate and the House today, the Travel, Rec, and Wildlife Committee, the primary committee that we usually testify on. This year, we'll probably be in front of the Ag Committee a few times as well. But I want to say that both testimonies today were very engaging. Both new and old legislators asked fabulous questions, knew the subjects well, and there was great discussion. Thank you, Commissioner Masterson, for joining us at the table for testimony as well. I believe it went very well today. This morning, we testified on the property tax bill for game and fish, Senate File 99 in the Senate. And it went through the Senate committee with a 5 unanimous vote to move it forward. We just got done with testifying at the House Committee on House 45. This is the otter bill, taking it off the protected status. That one went through as well, 6-2. Great discussion. The legislators, it was evident that they had prepared and done their homework. So very much appreciated that. Other things I've noticed so far, we have over 16 bills that we're tracking that have high impact to the department. I anticipate that we'll have at least a dozen more, so a pretty heavy workload this year. But again, the legislators are reaching out. They're being very responsive, trying to get information ahead of time prior to the committees, and that was really nice to see. Next, I'd like to talk about that bear. Grizzly bears are always on the forefront of our discussions here. And as we move through the next several weeks, we will be publicizing different perspectives from the department on the different parts of the decision that came out last week. Therefore, I'm going to read you a little bit of one of the statements that will be coming out this weekend to further help people understand what this means for the department, what this means for grizzly bears, and then what our next steps is. So bear with me as I walk you through this. As you know, the Fish and Wildlife Service decision to not delist the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem, known as the GYC, grizzly bear, is extremely disappointing and frustrating for us. Despite all our efforts, the Fish and Wildlife Service has chosen to ignore the science and keep grizzly bears listed. This is not a science-based decision. It is a decision based on federal government not wanting to give up control. The Wyoming Game and Fish Department has spent millions of license fee dollars and thousands of hours to fulfill the obligations required to demonstrate to the courts and the Fish and Wildlife Service that the GYC grizzly bears are fully recovered. This decision shows no matter what we do, the Fish and Wildlife Service refuses to recognize Wyoming's efforts as well as the sacrifices and compromises made by the public who live, work, and recreate in areas occupied by grizzly bears. As we review the numerous documents and responses released by the Fish and Wildlife Service last week, our disappointment and frustration continues to grow. The proposals set forth are vague and will negatively impact grizzly bears and the people by developing unattainable scenarios for grizzly bear recovery and conservation, and adds more questions than ever for the future of grizzly bears in the United States. Today, the federal government will still remain in control of grizzly bears, even though Wyoming is essentially implementing all management without the acknowledgement. A delisting will not change our management except for allowing the state to implement a hunting season. Now I'd like to address the specific Wyoming decision. To sum it up, Wyoming is being punished for its success, stating expansion of grizzly bears in the GYC as a reason why the population is no longer distinct and therefore unable to be delisted is contradictory to the guidelines for the definition of a distinct population segment as part of the Endangered Species Act. A 4D rule is proposed. A 4D is a tool in the Endangered Species Act that gives partial management over to the state entity. The proposed 4D does not give the state more management tools, but rather adds additional administrative procedures. The proposed flexibility with this 4D changes for private individuals, livestock producers is vague and has potential to create human safety and liability issues that are not adequately considered before all these proposed flexibilities were announced. The Fish and Wildlife Service has not provided a path for recovery. They have a new recovery area or a new DPS. It's outlined in the gaps identified, but no mention of a recovery plan. It includes large areas of unsustainable habitat, including private lands and human populated areas, which makes it very likely for conductivity to occur. This essentially neglects the ability to ever recover and delist, which stands in direct opposition to the charge of the Endangered Species Act. Wyoming's next step for a delisting. We have met every obligation in the GYC to have a recovered population. We have a conservation strategy approved by our federal agencies, the National Park Service, the Forest Service, states and tribes. We have set habitat standards. We have a tri-state MOU, as you guys have signed. We have a new integrated population management tool model that the study team designed across federal and state partnership. And we implemented genetic structure within the GYC by recently moving to grizzly bears. Everything is in place to move forward immediately. Despite the frustrations, we will turn our energy outside the Fish and Wildlife Service to delist the bears. State management is critical to celebrate the successful recovery of grizzly bears in the GYC. It is a priority for Wyoming to have bears under state management. All options are being pursued, including working alongside Representative Hageman in full support of the Grizzly Bear State Management Act that she recently reintroduced last week. Again, thank you for your patience as I outlined what the future looks like as we move forward with grizzly bears. On to another subject, sage grouse, the BLM RMP amendment and where we are today. Over the last couple months, we've had a lot of conversations with the BLM, the Department of Interior, and all the states that are represented in this range-wide EIS. We work diligently to analyze and think about and strategize what our best move forward is. This morning, 2 states signed a record of decision, Oregon and Colorado. However, Wyoming and the other states decided to wait. The current EIS does not analyze some essential pieces that we need to have a decision that's defendable and durable. We have committed to working with all the states to do a supplemental EIS in the coming months and have those essential pieces analyzed so that we can complete a ROD this year under the new administration. We've already scheduled a meeting with the sage-grouse implementation team, the SIGIT, in order to bring all stakeholders to the table to have us help with this effort as well. Now, this meeting is bittersweet. We've got 2 commissioners that this is their last official meeting. 6 years at this table, pretty remarkable, the time and commitment that you have given the department and the Fish and Wildlife Resources of the state. So from the bottom of my heart, I say thank you. Your passion for wildlife, your commitment to the department and to the individual employees is evident. And it's so remarkable to see where you've come in the 6 years. Commissioner Brokaw, I can't thank you enough for your perspective from your past experience with county conservation, bringing that to the forefront here, and your landowner perspective. Extremely helpful. Someone I can turn to and others to get that unique perspective that I think is so valuable. Thank you for being president. I think we'd all agree we appreciated the humor you brought to the chair, and we will truly miss you. Commissioner Ladwick, President Ladwick, thank you too for stepping up into the leadership role as president. Your experience with the counties, definitely we found valuable as part of the commission throughout the years. And I'm not sure if I've seen a commissioner more engaged and involved and present at all things with the department. Your attendance at our Western organization, WAFWA meetings, engaging with other states and communicating and bringing that knowledge back to us is really incredible. So I really thank you both. You will be missed. And President, I do have a closing gift for you. This is your official gavel that you'll get to take with you, representing your presidency here on the commission for 2024 to 2025. So with that, would everybody help me thank these 2 for their work and dedication? Thank you. And with that, I'll just stand for any questions.
Commissioner Brokaw.
Yes, thank you, Angie, for that. Back to business on the grizzly bear. I think those comments that the department's gonna go forward with this weekend are fantastic. I heard some comments this past week, maybe that was a little harsh. And I publicly say not harsh enough. You stand by your guns and you make this tough. Not a fun road, but it's a good road, and I have all the faith in the department, so keep it tough. I think that's a good position to take. The other thing I commend the department on is not signing on to the new sage-grouse rule. I think it's very wise strategy to wait to do a new record of decision. After everything we've been through. But don't give up. The last yards are the hardest, so you fought a good fight. Hang in there for the win.
Mr. President, Commissioner Brokaw, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, the sage-grouse plan has been 2 years in the making. I get asked almost every day from our partners and our stakeholders in the state, from our oil and gas folks, our legislators, all the stakeholders that come to the table all the time. And they're a little bit surprised when I say, no, we're going to try to salvage the plan. It's been a rough road, but starting over is a lot to ask, and we're so close. We're probably 90% there. So with the strategy we came up with to do a supplemental, I think is the best thing for Wyoming. The goal for Wyoming, but also the goal for all the Western states. And that's why we can really reunite, no matter what our issue is to have the sage grouse plan aligned with the state's plan. And when that alignment happens, we know it's a great chance of success. So Oregon and Colorado felt that they were there. And so they went ahead and signed the ROD today. The rest of us were close, but we're not there, a little bit more work to do. But again, at the end of the day, we all aligned with our state's plans.
Director, I'd like to echo Commissioner Brokaw's comments, but I'd like to also add that those of us sitting in these chairs up here would not be able to do our job without the department, headed by the director, all down to the lowest warden that just got hired. What a wonderful thing to work with you folks has been over the last 6 years. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes.
shockingly, may I make a couple comments?
Sure.
Director, I want to echo Commissioner Brokaw's comments. And the department can't say this, but I will anyway. I think it's offensive that the service failed to recognize years of work, reams of science, and what the Endangered Species Act was meant to do, which was to delist species, successfully recover and delist. And we did. And we did it because of the work of the people in the department. And I thank you all for the work that you put in to that. I can't even imagine how much time and effort. And I don't know whether I should apologize to the sportsmen who had their dollars spent on this. I feel their frustration. I'm offended by it. And it just shows how out of touch they are to keep moving the goalposts so that we can never get to a delisting. And I think it's really sad and a horribly unfortunate commentary on people in 2,000 miles away inside of a beltway telling people who live here what to do. So that's that. But I wanted to thank the president for being a friend and for his leadership and camaraderie and for leading me around by the hand for the first couple of years. Thank you. And to Commissioner Brokaw, thank you. I really hated you to start with. Exactly what the director said, your perspective is priceless on these things, even when it's wrong.
Yeah, sure.
And I really, really consider myself fortunate to have gotten to know you
Thank you.
and to consider you a friend.
Me as
And
well.
I look forward to seeing you down the road. And
We'll see you.
thank you for everything. Thank you both.
Anything else, Director? Okay. Next item on the agenda are awards and recognition. Yeah. Like I was in a hole. Worried about it.
All right, good morning or good afternoon, excuse me. Mr. President, members of the commission, Director Bruce, it's my pleasure to introduce two Services Division employees who have had a nearly combined 45 years of service to the department. First, I'd like to bring Scott Coffrin up here. Scott's going to be receiving his 25-year service award. Scott's originally from Iowa, where he started his collegiate career at Drake University and Waldorf College, eventually transferring to the University of Wyoming, where, as you might be able to guess, as he's standing next to me, he played college football for the Cowboys. Scott graduated with a bachelor's degree in wildlife and fisheries management and began working with the company out of Laramie doing reclamation work, where he learned how to use heavy equipment and do all the wonderful things that our H&A guys do. In 2001 is when he started working for the department in our Habitat and Access branch. By 2012, Scott had worked his way up to Services Administration here in Cheyenne, where he oversaw a multitude of projects, including the construction of the new Laramie Regional Office that features our forensic and fish health lab, and the whiskey conservation camp renovation, which I don't know if any of you had the opportunity to be there before that camp was renovated, but the results were pretty amazing. Scott was instrumental and critical to the success of that project, and we all get to reap the rewards of that today. Today, Scott leads our facilities management crew. The department made it a priority to work through the maintenance of our department-owned facilities a few years ago, and including all of our housing and administrative buildings. Through this new directive, Scott was tasked with putting together and outfitting a small crew that travels throughout the state on a weekly basis, improving all the department's facilities. Scott and his crew doing an excellent job of providing upgrades, remodels, and renovations to our regional offices and warden stations. And this is invaluable work and saves the department thousands of dollars on an annual basis. Scott's an avid hunter and fisherman and can often be found on the lake during the summer targeting walleye. He's a dedicated family man and enjoys watching his three sons compete in rodeo and basketball. With that, thank you, Scott, for your 25 years of service, dedication, and commitment. Congratulations.
Commission, if I might just take a second to say thanks to a few people. President Ladwig, Commissioners, Director Roos. Just want to say thanks to the Lord above. I also like to thank my wife, Stephanie, here. 25 years is a long time as I look in the mirror. And I've moved a few times working for the department, and I've been gone many a night. And this fine lady's been at home raising our three kids and taking care of things at home. And she even put her career on hold so I could do things for the department, and I can never say thanks enough to that lady right there. But I also like to say thanks to all the people that I worked with over the years. I guess one thing I've learned in 25 years with the department is very rarely do we get something done on our own. It takes a team. And I've had the opportunity to travel around the state and meet many of the employees, some of which here today. And I think we've got some awesome things done for the agency. And I'm just thankful for everything that they provided. So thanks for your time and thanks for what you do.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to bring Margaret James up here. Margaret's receiving her 20-year service award. So Margaret's originally from here in Cheyenne and graduated from the University of Wyoming with a master's degree in communications and a minor in mathematics. Margaret joined the department in 2006 as an administrative specialist and expo project leader back when we had the expo every year. It took a significant amount of personnel time to organize that event, and Margaret, along with the team, was instrumental in getting that event off the ground every year. She was directly involved with our conservation education program, including the Hunter Ed program, conservation camps, and the conservation stamp art show. Today, Margaret is the administrative specialist for the services division and supervises the department's gift shop. She does a lot of work for our Habitat and Access program, helping with budgets and accounting and signs, and has the hard job of working with me every day. For anyone that works at headquarters in Cheyenne, you know that Margaret is the go-to person for access keys, meeting room schedules, vehicles, and just about anything people would need in the office. She's a person that gets things. Margaret is a master at organizing events and meetings. She often gets relied upon to put together a division meeting and organize activities for a large group of people, and manages to somehow take a bunch of semi-grumpy people and make them all have fun. And she does an awesome job of that. She's an optimistic person, has a great attitude and dedication to the department. And it's all evident in every task that she takes on. She genuinely cares about the department and her colleagues, and is an absolute pleasure to work with. Margaret has a wonderful family, loves to travel, and enjoys watching her daughter compete in swimming and band. And we just really appreciate your 20 years of service, dedication, and commitment. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Technology is how it gets the best of me. Anyway, thank you, commissioners, director and president. My name is Mark Young. This is Lanny Applegate. And we are here to thank President Ladwig specifically for his support of the Wyoming Last Team. And what he has done for the Last Team is provided the opportunity to get a hunting tag. And we have been able to sell that and been able to use those proceeds for the operation of the Last Team. Now, everybody's probably like, what's a Last Team? Let me give you just a brief, quick overview if I can. Every state in the union has a Last Team. It stands for Local Assistance State Team. It's a program of the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial in Emmitsburg, Maryland. They went out and asked for folks to form a team of volunteers statewide with the sole mission of supporting the fire departments and the family members of firefighters who have lost their lives while in the line of duty. That includes, that's the way it started, and I'll finish up the rest of my story here shortly, but it started with firefighter focus. That includes, we put a team together, we come in as an incident management team, kind of behind the scenes to an unfortunate event as a LODD. And I call them the ghost team, but we manage and we support the family and the department. And that means we'll actually put on the funeral service, memorial service, we'll do the receptions, we'll do a processional, we'll do whatever the family wants. Everything is driven by the family. As soon as the family says, come on in, we need help. And many times departments in the state of Wyoming do not have the resources and are overwhelmed with a line of duty death, as you can imagine. The emotions, the tragedy of all of that is very hard to get through. So the team comes in, we partner with the department, and we do whatever the family and department would like us to do. We're on site for about 7 to 10 days, depending on what's needed. We are self-sufficient, meaning donated funds, and we're just out of sight. And as soon as the event's over, we have an exit strategy where we all just pack our bags and head back home with nothing mentioned about last. So that's what we do. When we started, probably about, oh boy, time flies, almost 20 years ago now. It was firefighter focused. It's one of those things where you build it and they will come, things happened. And as soon as you start to put a team together, which we have 70 volunteer members across the state that are part of this team makeup. As soon as we built it, law enforcement said, hey, we heard about you. What can you do for us? We're like, what do you want? We'll do anything. Game and fish, same thing. Search and rescue, county search and rescue, EMTs, any public safety discipline now will come to us and ask for assistance. For example, Bob Sexton, former game warden, when he passed, the family asked if we would help with that service. And we'll do everything. We'll do everything from just show up. If you want a bagpiper, if you want just an honor guard, if you want the whole enchilada, and it looks like a backdraft on the movie and you have, you know, the parades in the street and everything, processions, we'll do whatever they ask. So that's what we're all about. And we also support, we have special trained folks who help a family through the very, very arduous process of applying for the federal public safety officer benefit. It seems like every time you make, this is a comment, but that's just my opinion, but every time it's a tough process because every time you file a claim, it's like a claim against the federal government, and they have a team of attorneys that are there just to work you over a little bit. So, but we have trained members on the team that actually go back and get training and actually get trained from leadership at PSOB, and that's a Department of Justice program. And that one-time death benefit, once it's given to the family, is about $390,000 one-time death benefit. So it's very, very valuable to the family. So we have been successful as a team in about 7 of those since its inception. And the only ones that we haven't been successful in are cancer cases at this point. But anyway, that's the team. In 2022, we performed 9 memorial services. We supported the governor's prayer breakfast with an honor guard. We put on the annual Wyoming Fallen Firefighters Memorial Service in Riverton every year. And in 23, we did 6 services. In 24, we did 6 services statewide. And we do everything from a retiree funeral to an active member who lost their life for some reason while not on duty. And then we do support firefighters and law enforcement and other public safety agencies with line of duty deaths. So I'm going to cut it off there, but that's
Maybe you mentioned
what
about
we do.
the engine that we're building up in Casper.
Oh, yeah, we had a vision, right? One of the visions was to find an old antique fire truck. I like American LaFrance, it's my favorite. And American LaFrance red, because fire trucks should be red, and we all know I could, in the hallway, I'll tell you why someday, but we had a vision to get an old fire truck donated and then partner with somebody to restore that to a perfect condition, but include a hydraulic lift inside of it where we would gut the truck and you open up the rear and the honor guard would simply place the casket on some rollers and just put it into the interior of the truck, close the rear doors, and then the hydraulic lifts the casket to the hose bed and it's locked in. It saves a lot of backs when knee injuries and shoulder injuries from honor guard members statewide. And it's a very reverent and honorable way to say thank you to a fallen and then use that as a caisson. And so we partnered with Casper College, and the automotive program is amazing. And we got them the truck and they have totally rebuilt the running gear and the diesel. And they've demoed the inside. They've installed the hydraulic lift. We're going up next week to meet with the team, and it's going to auto body and they're going to straighten it out and we're going to paint it nice red. American from France Red, and then we're gonna do all the detail work. So in about a year and a half, 2 years, the students are doing all the work, so it's part of the curriculum. So it takes a little bit, but that's okay. And in a couple of years, we'll have a nice fire truck, and we plan to drive it in county parades and just kind of let people know about it. And then, of course, use it when asked to use it. So that's an ongoing project of the last. So thank you for your time. Thanks.
Mr. President, Commissioners, Director Bruce, as Mark said, my name's Lanny Applegate, and we're here to honor one of your commissioners today. We've been fortunate over the years, very fortunate. This program wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the Game and Fish Commissioners. I'll tell you that. They've been extremely helpful over the years. Past commissioners, current commissioners are sitting on the table there right now with you. Commissioner Ladwig, Commissioner Bell, Commissioner Roberts have all donated an elk tag to us to help fund these endeavors that we do. And we certainly do appreciate it. This last year was Commissioner Ladwig, and so Mr. Ladwig, if you would please come forward. Richard and I got a history. We were used to be county commissioners many years ago together. We won't
Too many
say,
years
we
ago.
won't say, I was just gonna say, won't say how many years ago, but it's been a while. But on behalf of the Wyoming Last Team, we'd like to present you with this plaque of recognition and your great support over the years. You've been a tremendous help to us. And we couldn't do, like I say, we couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you, thank you, thank
You
you.
bet. Thank you. Thank you.
Come on in, Mark.
Thank you, Glenn.
Okay, we're not done.
Okay.
Also, Commissioner Ladwig, Mr. President, we'd like to present you with a check to Access Yes. So, thank you.
Wow. $2,500. Access.
Thanks. Thank you. If you know anybody, if there's any commissioner who wants to help us out, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll travel anywhere in the state to go meet with you to tell you about our team and what we do and what we can do for you. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lanny. I'd like to call Harvey Dalton up for another session or representative. They had a blue slip in.
I'm not Harvey, but
I can tell.
I'll help out. As we've kind of made a habit of doing in Bow Hunters of Wyoming, we want to try to recognize the hard work that you guys do. It is not easy to sit at that table and make the decisions that you're asked to make over and over and over again, often fueled by emotion and things like that. So we want to say thank you to Commissioner Brokaw and President Lagwood, and we've got plaques for you guys if you'd step up. I'll do my best to get you back on schedule.
Make sure they have them up right side up.
I'm sure the director has to go talk about otters some more soon. That was fun, huh? Harvey said to make sure I get them right side up, so they go this way.
Okay, cool.
I guess that's been a problem
No,
in the
you got
past.
them
I don't
backwards.
know. Sorry, my bad. I can't read it. It's too bright.
Stand with them.
Thank you. Thank you
Randy.
very much.
Yes,
Thank you, Harvey.
Appreciate
Thanks, Harvey.
it. Appreciate the
Absolutely.
working relationship with you guys and friendship.
Yep, absolutely.
You're a
Heck
good
yeah.
group.
Huh.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll now hear from our deputy director.
Yes. Thank you, Mr.
Doug
President.
Frymeyer.
Thank you, Mr. President, Director Bruce, members of the commission. So,
Forgot about the other day.
so the next agenda item, we're going to go through the legislative update. So I'll try and be fairly brief, cover the bills as we move forward. And as Director Bruce mentioned a few minutes ago, the legislative session kicked off this last week. And in preparation, we have a number of our field staff that rotate through the Cheyenne office. They kind of get down into the pits here and help us to develop some talking points and evaluate these bills as they come up. And with that, you'll see that you have a document shared with you that's a spreadsheet that has all the bills that we're tracking. And the tracked bills are ones that we're going to be working up talking points on. And then monitored bills, you'll see on that spreadsheet are bills that we're going to be monitoring at the legislative session to see if they're amended or anything changes with them that they may end up having some impacts on the agency. And so again, that's all on that spreadsheet that I sent out. And if you need access to that, if you try to click into some of the links, please reach out to me and we'll make sure that things work for you. And that's a Google sheet that should be on email to you. So also this morning, Director Bruce mentioned that, or this afternoon, that we had a couple bills that we testified on, and one more that was on the schedule was House Bill 5, which was the Fishing Outfitters and Guides, and that's that registration of boats relating to the Game and Fish and the Commission to regulate commercially guided fishing boats. And so that bill is going to be testified on next week. So we'll be looking to see how that one moves forward next week. Some of the other bills I'll just go through fairly quick, but we have a couple of bills that are related to animal abuse. One of those that has a number right now is House Bill 3, and it's animal abuse for predatory animals. And that basically provides new criminal offenses for cruelty to animals, and we're watching how that one goes. We're tracking that one. And as Angie said earlier, we're tracking a little more than a dozen bills, maybe a dozen and a half bills. And totally, there's about 26 other bills that we're watching in the legislature to see if anything else happens to those. So we have a couple bills that are relating to licensing or application and coupons. That includes House Bill 2, and that's hunting license application fees. And that allows the commission to set application fees for hunting licenses. And in the bill, it talks about fees up to $20 for resident and $75 for non-resident. So that's House Bill 2. House Bill 110 is a trapping license for non-residents, a reciprocal license. And that basically relates to the qualifications for non-residents, and they have to show that Wyoming residents can trap in their state before they're allowed to trap in our state. We currently do a lot of the same things right now, but this bill just provides a little more direction on that. House Bill 204, non-resident fishing fee licenses or fishing fee increase. It's related to increasing the non-resident license fees, and that one's one that we're tracking as well. Another bill that relates to licenses and coupons is House Bill 186, which is bear coupons. And this bill was recently posted on the website, and it attaches a bear coupon for all elk licenses outside of the greater Yellowstone area. And so for the 2026 and 2027 season, the coupon is not another license, but it is attached to the elk license as hunters and sportsmen purchase that. So we're working through that with the proponents. And I'm not sure when that one's going to be assigned to a committee, but we'll be watching that one really close. And it basically, it's pretty broad right now. It allows a holder of the coupon to take not more than one brown or black bear or grizzly bear in an area where they're licensed to be hunting elk. And so we're tracking that one. We're going to work with them a little bit more on that. We'll just see where that one goes. Again, that one kind of liberalizes things on bears. It's kind of a statement to where things are at. Currently with the political climate with grizzly bears, there's some frustration there as well. So Another license bill is related to the weighted, it's Senate File 2, hunting license weighted bonus point system. And of course, this basically shifts the preference point to a weighted bonus point for ram, bighorn sheep, and moose hunting license. And it creates the random draws spelled out in there as well. And it removes the preference points, again, for bighorn sheep and antlered moose at this point. And we're testifying on this one next Tuesday. And that will be in the morning. So I guess that's the Senate. Another Senate, let's see. Senate File 2, that was Senate File 2, and then there's Senate File 3, mule deer and whitetail split. This is one that came up before the task force, and that one will separate the hunting seasons for whitetail deer and mule deer. And another one is Senate File 118, and that is the landowner hunting tags and its amendments. And it relates to the Game Fish authorizing landowners to sell their landowner hunting licenses as specified. And so we're looking at that one as well. I expect that one will gain a lot of attention as it gets moving through the legislative process. We have a couple bills dealing with access. House Bill 99, it's access to public lands corner crossing. And it provides an exception to the offenses of criminal trespass and game and fish trespass regarding incidental contact associated when you're crossing the corner of two properties. And so that one will also gain a lot of attention once it gets into the legislative process. House Bill 109 is also a trespassing bill. And that one relates to prohibiting hunters who are convicted of trespassing on private land from purchasing hunting and fishing and trapping licenses. So it provides for the loss of their privileges. Other bills of note, let's see. Other bills of note would be there's a meat processing for composted materials related to livestock. And the bill's pretty broad right now. It just says livestock and other animals. And so we're kind of tracking that one to make sure that it does not, that we have some reservations about CWD, and we want to make sure the committee knows those concerns about prions and how they stay viable if they are composted. So we're working on that one. There's a hunting from vehicles bill, and this one basically allows for people to basically says no person shall harass or pursue, hunt or shoot or kill any Wyoming wildlife that requires a license. So it opens it up a little bit more for folks to use for other species that are not licensed. So there are a couple other tax bills that we've tracked. We had Angie, Director Bruce mentioned that we testified this morning on one. There's another bill on Senate File 68, which is taxes related to government-owned lands. There's also, and that one, we'll track that one to see if there's any changes to that one. There's special licenses for license plates for multi-purpose vehicles is removed from currently the special license plate regulation statute restricts licenses to passenger vehicles. And so if it adds multi-purpose vehicles into that, we're expecting that some people will be able to buy, they'll be able to buy a smaller plate for ATVs and so on. So that could add a little bit of funding to the crossing projects that we have. There's also a couple funding bills out there for WWNRT, which is large project funding, which typically is passed and heard every year. This year, that one's again providing some funding for large projects, and a lot of this year they're focusing on some of the fire damage and some reclamation work there. And then there's another House bill that is House Bill 101 that provides an account for forestry health and wildlife habitat. And so that's going to have an account of $3 million. And so we'll be watching how that one changes in the legislature as well. And I think the last one that I have just last note is just to let you know that that spreadsheet that you have, if you have any access issues to any of the files, you'll see on there that we're updating it daily. Director Bruce mentioned that these numbers of bills that we're watching changes pretty regularly. And we'll post those onto that spreadsheet. And then as we get our talking points, you'll notice on that, in that spreadsheet, there's LIS, which is our license information sheets. We'll have a link to those sheets in there. So if you see one of those, you can click into it. And those are our agency talking points. And we're trying to provide clarity for the legislators as they move through these bills. We're not trying to convey a positive or a negative towards the bill, but we're trying to provide the level of information that they need to make it a sound decision on their part. So keep in touch with that spreadsheet and call me if you have any questions at all on any of the content in it. And I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions or comments? I would like to add that after watching this legislative session activity for 6 years now, or going on almost 6 years starting, there's been an increase in the ability of this spreadsheet or the information that's presented to us as commissioners every year, and this year is the best so far. It's looking good and it's pretty, I've used it. I'm an old man, I'm at work. So I think it's improvement that is well needed.
Yeah, thanks to the leadership team, Commission President. We've kind of talked through this and felt that there was a number of stakeholders that would benefit from having that at their fingertips. And so the learning process for me has been to make sure that it's shared, because we share it and then I get an email that says, I can't open this file. So
I'm sure you'll get it figured out, but it's better.
thank you.
Mr. President, I
Yes.
just wanted to say thanks to the whole team. If you're on one of those virtually, you can see everybody there, and there's a lot of people that are working on this from across the agency and across the state. So thanks for all that work. And I know it takes a team to keep track of all these things and stay on top of them, because it's ever changing, and it's a long 40 days. So thanks for all the work now and the next 2 months. So
Thank you, Commissioner Bell. And I just echo that it's been pretty interesting, because we have a team of field folks that are rotating through every week. And so we send out an email in December and we're saying, if you have an interest in learning the legislative process or getting some experience at the Cheyenne office, it gives us, our field people, an opportunity. And so we got a great group of folks. This week we've got guys from, the Wildlife Division, Services, and the wildlife biologists, and seeing the Fish Division as well. And so it's great to see everyone interacting and helping track things.
Super. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief Gokolia? Or Nish from Game and Fish?
Thank you, President Lagwed, Director Bruce, members of the commission. I'm Nish Goikolea. I'm the Communication and Education Chief, and I'm here to give you an annual update report on our Wyoming Wildlife Magazine. Perfect. So currently, we're in our 89th year of the magazine. The first edition of the magazine came out in 1936. When it first started to come out, all of the illustrations were hand-drawn on kind of original construction type paper. So this is a cover from the 5th edition. And so those of you who have been with us for a few years, you've seen a whole bunch of different ones, but this is a study on Wyoming wildlife that featured on the 1936 cover. Currently, and last year, we had in 2024, we had 27,365 subscribers. We know on average, every time we send out the magazine, 3.89 people read it in total. So our subscriber, and then they pass it around to family and friends typically, or they have it in their place of business. Wyoming Wildlife Magazine reached nearly 110,000 people in 2024. We utilize this as a very successful outreach tool to communicate our efforts. We have subscribers in all 50 states. Wyoming is the #1 state, of course, with 10,219 subscribers. Colorado comes in second with 2,000 plus subscribers. And then California is in third with over 1,000 subscribers. We also send the magazine to the District of Columbia and to our armed forces. We also have subscribers from 15 different countries that you can see here. And we're really proud of this. It's really exciting to think about people in Denmark or Norway or in Bermuda reading our magazine, talking about Wyoming wildlife. And so the reach is pretty exciting. And this is an award-winning magazine, both nationally and internationally. Last year at the Association for Conservation Information, we won 2 awards. One was a first place and one was a third place in different categories. At the International Regional Magazine Association, better known as the IRMA to us, we took a gold and a bronze. And from the Wyoming Press Associations, we won 17 awards, 7 first and the overall best of the Wyoming Press Association. And this week, right now, as we speak, the Wyoming Press Association is holding their annual conference. And tomorrow, they're going to announce this year's awards, and we anticipate some good ones to come. So I will send you some more information when I have it on that. We did a few different things this last year with the magazine. One of the big things we did is we did pre-sale orders of our calendar in order to try to get a better count of how many people would be interested in the upcoming calendar year, be able to bring in some, profits to be able to then put back into the production and printing for the calendar and for the magazine. And through these efforts, we had over 255 pre-sales, and we generated $3,800 to offset some of those costs. Our contributors in 2024, we're very, very proud of this. The magazine team is a really small staff, and I have 2 of them in-house here today that I want to give a shout out to. I have our editor, Tracy Binkert. She's back here in the back. Tracy, will you stand and wave? And I have our creative director and also one of our best photographers in-house, Patrick Owen. And Patrick lays out the magazine every month and also picks the photos that you see oftentimes. All the time, I should say. So alongside the magazine, I should mention too, and absent today is our associate editor, Robert Gagliardi. He's out on leave right now, but Robert is a fantastic editor as well. So this small team alongside department supports create this magazine every single month. We had 29 Game and Fish employees who wrote for the magazine. That's 10 more in-house writers than we had last year. We have 42 staff members who contributed a total of 252 pictures. We have some amazing in-house photographers that are out there in the field, and we're still looking for more. And we had 86 Game and Fish employees who were sources, reviewers of the magazine and the various articles throughout. And then from there, we have 17 freelance writers, and we had 25 freelance photographers who contributed to photos or artwork, illustrations for us. Last year, we did a special issue. We love these special issues. They take a lot of work, but they're really fun to do. And it was the Inspire a Kid issue. It was all focused on content for kids, families, teachers. We had all kinds of activities, information, and then we had a separate booklet insert targeted at Wyoming Water, specifically on AIS prevention and information. This was a really big deal. We are able to also print the insert separately, so we give those out to schools, we take them to outreach events, and they're really, really positive, well requested even for us. Here's a snippet of the insert. This was a project that generated out of the fish division, and we were really excited about that and took it and ran. So for our special issue this year, here's your sneak peek. We're going to do an entire issue in September on Movement Matters, focused on terrestrial and aquatic movements and the projects that the department and the state's working on with our partners. Next month, one of our favorite issues is the photo issue. we had 2,843 photos entered to be part of this. That's really exciting. We get photos from all kinds of places, spaces, and things. And this is one of our it's a real tough thing. I don't participate in the judging of that because it's just too hard to decide sometimes. So just the overall review of the goal for the magazine. The goal of the magazine is really to tell the story of the Department of Conservation efforts that we're doing, that our partners are doing, that's happening in Wyoming, and then also make it very relevant and relatable for the public across the state. We do have some challenges, ongoing challenges with the magazine is that, budget's hard. Printed magazines are going away every day, all the time, magazines, newspapers, whatnot. We've had challenges in the past from paper shortages to printing issues to postage increases. Inflation gets a little tick up every single year, it seems like. We're always working hard to generate internal contributions. We want to talk about the work that's happening around the state and then across the department, but that sometimes is a challenge. And then, of course, growing reach, getting more people to read the magazine, to see the value that we see in it. But we also have a lot of opportunities. We've seen continued support. There are people that truly, truly love the magazine and the product, and they talk about it all the time. They give us new ideas. We've also seen some growth internally and externally in terms of support. And so that we think that's really positive. We're going to do some more efforts to focus in that. We've been working really hard on crossover marketing. So if we're talking about it in the news, we're talking about it on social media, we're talking about it in the magazine as well, to have a bigger impact in our messaging and our reach. And then last thing, we've been working on the digital adaptability. We have a digital version of the magazine. We've been able to embed links, videos, other things. It doesn't quite have the same charisma, I would say, or following that the paper magazine has, but we're continuing to grow it. And we know that we have some new audiences coming on board with that. So our goals for 2025 are really, we're going to focus on the Movement Matters edition. We want to continue to build relationships internally and externally. We want to increase our interactive and digital content. We want to do more reels, more e-edition links, other online content. As new technology emerges that can be, powerful for the magazine, it can be powerful for the messaging. And then we're going to do a complete visual and redesign of the magazine in 2026. We haven't done this in 10 years. And then we're also exploring a new readership survey. We want to know what the people who read our magazine want to see, continue to love, and make sure that we keep that in hand. And then also find out what we could do to target new audiences and other people. And I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions, comments? It just gets better. And that's good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nish.
Okay, Ryan? Amundsen?
I'm not quite Ryan.
Oh.
He knows a lot more about it than I do. Commission- President Ladwig, Commission, Director Bruce. Our next presentation is on Chapter 66. It will be presented by Ryan Adamson because he's a lot more knowledgeable about it than I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, President Ladwig, members of the commission, Director Bruce. Here today to talk about Chapter 66 regulation and go back to the September commission meeting when I talked and presented some information about the bighorn sheep restoration area term and definition. I am a terrestrial habitat biologist out of Wheatland, but I also have the opportunity to serve as a co-chair of the Bighorn Sheep Domestic Sheep Interaction Working Group. I co-chair that with Dr. Hallie Hazel, who is the state veterinarian. So I'm going to share with you a couple of slides that I did share with you back in September, just to review just a little bit. The Domestic Sheep, Bighorn Sheep Interaction Working Group was formed back in the year 2000. It's made up of a diverse group of people, conservation organizations, livestock, stock grower associations, wool grower associations, federal land management agencies, game and fish personnel, the Wyoming Wild Sheep Foundation, ranchers, are all serving on this interaction working group. And in 2004, they came up with what's called the Wyoming Plan. It's a very extensive document. And the main goal of that document is to maintain healthy bighorn sheep populations while sustaining an economically viable domestic sheep industry in Wyoming. So the group is meeting on an annual basis with that goal in mind. When I came to you in September, it was all about Appendix M of the Wyoming Plan. And as it currently is today, there are 4 designated sheep areas in the state. Core native herds that are in the northwest portion of the state, cooperative review areas that are found intermixed throughout the state, non-emphasis areas that are considered low priority areas for bighorn sheep management, and then a lot of areas in Wyoming that are white on the map that are outside of identified management areas and are not suitable habitat for bighorn sheep. And this is the term and definition that we asked you to approve in September. The purpose of the bighorn sheep restoration area is to provide for the establishment of additional bighorn sheep populations in the state. And they can occur within cooperative review areas, non-emphasis areas, or non-management areas. And that could be as a result from us actually intervening and doing an introduction, or it can be just from natural immigration that may occur into a new area where they're not currently established. On the last bullet point, it's very important to see in a designated area, in the event bighorn sheep naturally immigrate into or are reintroduced, the state of Wyoming accepts any risk of contact between domestic sheep and bighorn sheep. And we will hold livestock producers harmless in the event that that does occur. So just to back up and give a little bit of timeline of how we got to where we're at. In spring of 2024, Senator Larry Hicks had Senate File 118 that was approved into law. And I'm just going to read a little bit of that so you can kind of see how this is all intertwined. And this was very specific to the Sweetwater Rocks area of Wyoming. The Game and Fish Department shall relocate or remove all bighorn sheep from the Sweetwater Rocks herd unit if any federal judicial action or federal agency action requires or indicates it may require the following. 1, the elimination, reduction, or suspension of domestic livestock grazing or trailing in the Sweetwater Rocks herd unit. Or 2, any changes to the U.S. BLM Resource Management Plan, Grazing Allotment Plan, or Livestock Grazing Permit terms and conditions due to the presence of bighorn sheep. So that was codified into law in the spring. And at the same time, I was working with a small group of people that were part of that interaction working group to work on this language for bighorn sheep restoration area. And that took us a couple months to get there. And in August of 2024, the interaction working group was given this term and definition, and everybody that participates on that group did unanimously agree to accept that language. And then it was time to forward that on. And step 4, in August of 2024, I met with the Wyoming Livestock Board and shared with them that language for bighorn sheep restoration area. It was accepted. In September, same thing again with the Wyoming Board of Agriculture, was again unanimously approved. And then lastly, I came to the commission in Douglas in September, and you folks unanimously approved that as well. And this is where Attorney General Office Ben Peterson steps in and says, hold your horses a little bit. We've got a couple steps here you have to do. We got to back up just a little bit. So he advised that this does require Chapter 66 regulation change, and we need to comply with the Wyoming APA requirements and put this out for public comment. So as soon as that commission meeting was over, we got started on that.
and took the term and definition in the draft chapter 66 regulation out to the public for their comments through December 3rd of 2024. And on November 18th, we met in Lander, the Interaction Working Group, and prior to that meeting happening, we held an open house and took public comment for a couple hours that morning as well, and had several members of the public show up for that. And so here we are today. These are the summary of public comments that we received. 9 were received in total. Multiple comments that we received were not very specific to chapter 66. People had made observations of domestic sheep overgrazing throughout the state of Wyoming. It was also recommended that we maintain migration corridors for bighorn sheep. People also favored that we use test and remove methods versus just lethal removal of wandering bighorn sheep. And lastly, there was people that favored just complete annulment of the Wyoming plan that was codified into law in 2015. We did have 3 comments that supported the chapter 66 regulation change. And one of those included a joint letter of support from some key partners that are in that interaction working group: Wyoming Wool Growers, Wyoming Wildlife Federation, Wyoming Wild Sheep Foundation, and Wyoming Stock Growers Association. So all those groups there were in favor of this. And a full compilation of those comments are in your commission notebook for your review. And our department response to the public comments, 3 main things here. And one, again, was the main goal of our interaction working group. And there are 3 signatory agencies to that Wyoming plan: Wyoming Livestock Board, Ag Commission, and Game and Fish Commission. And it is to maintain healthy bighorn sheep populations while also having an economically viable domestic sheep industry. So we feel like the bighorn sheep restoration area term and definition, if added to the plan, accounts for the state's efforts to reintroduce bighorn sheep where there may be domestic sheep in close proximity. And of course, we're doing our homework before we would propose any kind of transplants, and we're not trying to create those problems ahead of time. And we're addressing those things. And we do things like habitat suitability models, looking where there are current livestock operations, things like that, before we make those kind of decisions where any future transplants may occur. And then lastly, we are holding livestock producers harmless for the potential spread of disease to bighorn sheep if it's within this bighorn sheep restoration area. And that's also in direct correlation with the state statute and Wyoming plan. So with that, and our review of all public comments, our recommendation to the commission is adoption of chapter 66 regulation. And with that, take questions.
Questions or comments?
Mr. President, I have one. It seems like the main focus has been on Sweetwater Rocks on chapter 60. Is there other places that we're looking at besides the Sweetwater Rocks?
So currently there is no plans for anywhere in the state. So this is the bighorn sheep restoration area language is very vague, and we don't have any maps associated with any areas right now. None have been identified at this point.
So if we, okay. It doesn't really make sense to me now, because if we've got everybody on board for this, and then, but we've not, where was I during the Sweetwater Rocks things? Because that was his name, seems to be the main focus that we were looking at. And then all of a sudden, we're not gonna incorporate any of that, or you want?
Director Bruce?
Yeah, Mr. President, can I help out?
Yes.
Otherwise? Oh, there we go. Mr. President, Commissioner, the thing that instigated the need for this language was the effort of looking at if the Sweetwater Rocks was a possible location. So yes, it was the reason for all of this to start. But this action as an update to the overall plan is independent of that in a way, because it could be used in different circumstances throughout time. So it's an update to the plan that then if the decision to go ahead with the Sweetwater Rocks translocation is separate from adopting the restoration language as he's asked today.
Any other comments?
Mr. President, could I ask Eric or Dan to explain the action for today and the reason to hold off?
President Ladwig, Commission Director Bruce. So for this chapter to be signed into regulation, all three agencies or all three entities have to sign it. It's our bill, or it's our regulation, so we should be the final one to sign it, because then we'll file it with the Secretary of State. As of yet, the other two agencies or groups have not signed it yet. So our recommendation would be to hold until they do and then sign it accordingly.
Any further discussion?
Chairman,
Commissioner Brokaw.
failure on stalker order shouldn't be a penalty for the commission. Like, one drive the bus, get up front. Don't tell them. Jim, I said that. Mr. Chairman, I move to table chapter 66 until further notice.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Brokaw and seconded by Commissioner Jolbitz. I'm getting too old for this, to put this on hold until further notice. We have more information available and the other two entities are on board with it. Is there any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. President, when are we going to find out anything on this?
Are they scheduled to meet?
President Ladwig, Commissioner Roberts, we actually thought it would be done prior to this meeting, which is why we had this scheduled for this presentation so that we could finalize it. Our hope is to have it done in the very near future so that at either the next meeting or very soon after, we could get this signed.
And the next meeting is in March. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is passed to put it on hold.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, if I could, while Ryan's here. Ryan, I'm sure you're familiar with the letter we just got from the concerned citizens in the Sweetwater Rocks area. I was under the impression that we had a more favorable support in that area. Can you update us on just that component of the Sweetwater Rocks?
Sure. President Lagwig, Commissioner Brokaw. Yes, you did receive a letter this week and I have seen that, that there appears to be some opposition from private landowners, federal land permittees in the Sweetwater Rocks. I think what we've seen here is that some of those folks have not been at the table at some of our interaction working group meetings. And we're not fully aware of some of the behind the scenes work that's going on, such as Bighorn Sheep Restoration Area term and definition. Senate File 118 that was done kind of on their behalf to provide these assurances to them. I think at the current time, they'd like to see more assurance. They're nervous about federal overreach, and rightfully so. So I think they'd like to see some federal legislation that mimics what's been done with Senate File 118 and what we're trying to accomplish through the Wyoming plan. So yes, I think we're going to proceed very cautiously and need to make sure that we have really open dialogue with those landowners and permittees going forward.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments, Ryan, because that's certainly the position I remember the commission taking and the department taking was without assurances, the department would not move further on this project. And so I wondered if, based on that letter, if they were just maybe not as informed as your public meeting process has been. And then with that letter addressed to It wasn't addressed to the commission, but we got copies of it. Will the department make a reply back to that letter? Reiterating its stance on our position of assurances?
Director Bruce, would you like to answer that?
Mr. President, if I could answer.
Go ahead.
Commissioner Brokaw, we plan on bringing you a package, the whole Sweetwater package, so separate from this restoration and definition conversation. I think we're on the agenda for the April meeting. So really to take a step back and say what you requested of the department 3 years ago now, Ryan?
Mhm.
3 years ago, to take a look at the possibility of these and all the things we had to do that. So we plan on bringing that back to you in April. Unfortunately, not you, Commissioner Brokaw. But yeah, to the commission and say where we are. Recently, there was a separate landowner meeting, January 6th, to these landowners, and bringing you that data as well as other data for your consideration.
Very good. Yeah, I just wanted to keep those landowners engaged and defend the department. We're not, we're not force feeding this like the letter indicated. It's a very slow, well thought out process. All stakeholders involved. I commend the department on that project specific, and I appreciate the amendment and to give you latitude in other areas in the state for your management plan. So I know we've got two things going on here, but I think
Thank you.
So how is the department communicating with the parent organizations, let's say of that group? Because we don't know whether they're wool growers or whether they're stock growers. Is the department communicating at that level with everything so that their organizations completely understand what we're trying to do?
Yes, President Ladwig, members of the commission. Yeah, they are part of our interaction working group.
Right.
And their members attend those meetings regularly. We have one scheduled for next week on the 22nd. That's a Zoom call where those folks are all invited, everybody that's a part of that. That is a huge email list of, gosh, probably close to 100 people, individuals and members of those organizations that can participate in that. And we'll give an update at that point in time to everybody at where things stand today.
All right, thank you.
Mr. President, I do one more. So let me clarify, and I understand that they're separate, but you're telling the commission that there's no other places or anything we're looking at for bighorn sheep to reintroduction, or just the Sweetwater Rocks? Is there any other place that we're looking at?
President Ladwig, Commissioner Roberts, there is no other places currently that we are investigating, looking at for potential reintroduction of bighorn sheep.
Why is
I think we feel that, most of our suitable habitats are occupied at this point in time. The Sweetwater Rocks area does come to mind as, very suitable habitat for bighorn sheep. So that would be the most likely place that we would use this bighorn sheep restoration area term definition identification of that area. That is probably the one area that's in mind right now.
Well, I would encourage the department to keep searching locations. This is kind of what we're tasked to do as a commission, so just my thoughts.
I think that's probably a good idea. I'm sure they're probably aware of that or know that the possibility exists, so. Okay, anything else? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Roy Weber, Lands Branch Chief, welcome.
Mr. President, members of the commission, Director Bruce, I just have a couple of property rights items for approval today. I'll start off with an extension of a fishing easement on the Green River, and we'll end up with a sale of a game warden station in Powell. So this map here shows the location of the Price fishing easement along the Green River. It's on the east side of the river only, about 300 feet in length, located southwest of Pinedale. And the parking to get to this area is just north of here, and I'll show the location in just a minute on another map. But this easement plays in with the Somers Grindstone easement and public access area for fishing in this area. And that's why this easement's important to renew. And it's accessed directly from County Road 110, which is just north of this location. So the price fishing easement, like I said, provides connectivity between the Somers Grindstone fishing easement, which is a permanent easement along the Green River. This has pedestrian fishing access only. We're looking at a 10-year term. We did reach out to the landowner to see if they wanted to go for a longer term on this one, and they only wanted 10 years. So we have to stick with a 10-year term. We're looking at $14,000 in total compensation with an upfront payment, and that's $1,400 per year for the easement. We like to do this upfront payment for this one because we don't want to use the conservation stamp access funds that are available for access for this payment. And also, if the landowner ever sells the property, we'll record that at the courthouse so it's covered in case someone else buys the property. And Sublette County has been notified and provided a letter of support for us to use those conservation stamp access funds for the entire purchase price. And I did check the balance of that fund. We have plenty of funds to cover that. This map here shows the Somers Grindstone easement, and in blue, it extends quite a ways to the north of this map. But the parking is up here to the north. Not sure if I can do this on here, but just to the north, you can see a boat right there. That's a boat launch and a parking area. And then pedestrian fishing on both sides of the river coming down to that square on the map, which is the Price property. Then it kicks to the east side of the river only for the Price portion in red. And then we have more of the other easement to the south of there too. So it provides better access for the entire area. So we want to move forward with redoing this easement. The department recommends the commission vote to approve the 10-year extension of the Price fishing easement for a total cost of $14,000 and approve the use of conservation stamp access funds for the payment.
Any questions? Discussion?
Mr. President, I have a question.
I have a question as well, but I defer to the one who's aging out.
Roy, I didn't understand
Your mic's not on.
pedestrian traffic, that on your map is blue, boats can go through here too, so.
Yeah, Mr. President, Commissioner Brokaw, there's boating access all the way along there. So there's a boat launch at the top there. This is the lowest point on the Green River for quite a ways to pull your boat out of the river. But you can boat down there and fish if you can find a spot to get out legally. But there is pedestrian fishing all the way along that blue area, all the way onto the Price fishing easement as well for people to walk along the bank and fish.
On both sides?
Both sides to the north of the Price easement, not on the Price easement.
Right.
Mr. President, that brings up my question. Why only one side?
Mr. President, Commissioner Masterson, I'm not actually sure. So the other easement, to the south, the Somers Grindstone easement, the reason this easement was put in place in the first place is because the Somers Grindstone easement was acquired years ago permanently, and it has just fishing on the east side of the river here too. So we just wanted to have connectivity originally. That's why this easement was originally acquired, to provide that access.
Is the Summers easement only the east side as well?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. President, okay. Do we have a blown up map of that, given more besides a larger map that shows by chance?
Yeah.
Mr. President, Commissioner Roberts, I don't have one, but it goes quite, like I said, quite a ways to the north for that other easement.
Well, I was just trying to figure it out where this was at.
Yeah,
The
this is.
location of the place and why it's an east side. Excuse me, I was just trying to figure out where the location and see why it's an east side river access only when usually seems to me it's on the west side, everybody approaches that area, so.
Yeah, Mr. President, Commissioner Roberts, I think this is on. Yeah, I'm not sure why they did the Somers Grindstone easement on the east side only in this location, but I can say as far as the location goes, the Somers boat launch is a south side boat launch for this whole area. And then the north up there is a Houston boat launch, if you know where that's at, along the Green River. So it's kind of almost directly southwest of Pinedale.
So do they have signage out there so that the fishermen know that they can't fish on both sides of the river right there?
Mr. President, Commissioner Ladwig, I don't completely know that for sure because I haven't been out there, but I'm sure they do have something that delineates east side only because that's what the agreement is.
Okay,
It's a good deal. I got it. Yeah.
any other questions?
Ready to move it, Mr. President, if you are.
Think we're ready.
I move to accept the department's proposal of purchase piece. The price.
Fishing easement.
Easement. For a one-time upfront payment of $14,000 out of our access yes funds.
Second,
Who did that?
I did.
Mr.
Commissioner
Bell. Commissioner Bell seconded that. Did you get that? Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, next we'll talk about the Powell Game Warden Station. So some of you may remember in 2023, the commission approved the purchase of a new game warden station in Powell. The game warden in that area moved to the new house, and so this house at 671 Shoshone Street is no longer needed and can be sold. The property was listed in early December for $299,000, and we did receive a full price offer within a few weeks. If approved today, the department plans to move forward and close the sale by the end of the month. We're looking at more than likely January 31st. The buyer of the property has already done all their due diligence with inspections and so on. Everything came up good. So we're ready to move forward with this, with the sale of the property. This here shows a couple of pictures of the house itself, front of the house on the left, back of the house on the right. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house with a 1-car garage, just under 1,200 square feet on the upper level and the same thing in the basement. So the department recommends the commission vote to approve the Powell Game Warden Station sale for the full list price of $299,000. And I'll just mention that, you know, with these $299,000, a little bit of closing costs is coming out of that. So we'll have a little bit less than that, but very close to $299,000.
Any questions or discussion?
Sell it.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to sell the Powell Game Warden Station for the full list price of $299,000 as recommended by the
Second.
department.
Second,
Been recommended by Commissioner Jolovich and seconded by Commissioner Bell to approve the sale of the Powell Game Warden Station. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead. Chief. Okay. Meredith Wood, Chief Financial Officer.
President Ladwig, Commissioners, Director Bruce, I am here to request an increase, actually two, to your current FY25 budget. The first one is a result of the governor recently approving a third phase employee salary increase. And to get us through the remainder of FY25, the next 6 months, we request $500,000 additional dollars to cover that increase. And the second one is for vehicles. So in FY24 and FY25, the commission budgeted over $4 million for vehicles in those 2 fiscal years. Due to supply limitations, we have been unable to acquire any of those vehicles. Just last week, we got the bid prices back so that we can acquire those 86 vehicles. And of course, since it's been 2 years, the prices have increased substantially. So the second increase would be a request for $700,000 so we can get caught up on the replacement of those 86 vehicles.
Questions, discussion?
Good President. The dirty scoundrels.
Your mic's not on. It shows it is.
No lights on.
Oh,
Our
okay.
bottom, hello, it's not working. IT.
I can hear you.
So we know when we did this, when I was on the budget work, we did this 2 years ago on that whole for quite an increase. We have to do the 500,000 for the state salary increases.
Correct.
Magic.
You are magic man. knowing the condition of our budget, what line item, what pool of money are you gonna pull this 1.2 million from?
President Ladwig, Commissioner Brokaw, that will come out of your commission's operating fund. So it's your unobligated cash currently.
Any further questions?
Mr. President, just to be clear, so it's 700,000 additional for vehicles and then the 500,000 for employee salaries.
President Ladwig, Commissioner Masterson, that's correct.
Okay, got it.
Mr. President, I would move to approve the increase to the FY 25 budget for salary adjustments and vehicle cost increase.
I so second.
Motion has been made and seconded by, motion was made by Commissioner Bell and seconded by Commissioner Brokaw. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Let's spend the money.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do a call of public. Is there any public comments? Seeing none? Sold.
Sold.
Is there a motion to adjourn for the day?
I would so moved, Mr. President.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is over. Adjourned for the day.